Hey, what's up, everybody? It's BDF44 coming at you with another video. This time I'm doing this one in the dark, right before going to bed, because I wanted to just get my initial reaction on the Laker game that just broke my heart, basically. Game 5 was a heartbreaker. The last time I watched a game like that in this type of setting was the game clinching Game 7, championship clinching Game 7. 2010. It just seemed like every single possession was as if you were pulling teeth out of your mouth. Just the most difficult thing to watch. We were down most of the game, and it came down to a couple plays down the stretch, and we won the championship. Well, tonight it came down to a couple plays, and we lost the game. That's what it really came down to. But it had the same feel to it. It was gritty. It was rugged, physical. Um, and it was just full of great shot makers making great shots. Um, First of all, I want to give kudos to LeBron James and Jimmy Butler for just putting on one of the great, um, versus performances you will ever see. It's gonna go down in history. That game 5 right there was two of just the best going at it, possession for possession down the stretch, willing their teams in one direction or another. And even though the Lakers lost, and it's going to go down as LeBron James couldn't close out, oh my goodness, that kind of narrative will be painted. Make no mistake about it. LeBron James was not the problem tonight at all. And I don't care what anyone says. For as long as I live, no matter what happens in this series, I will always remember that although LeBron lost this closeout game, he was about the only bright spot that the Lakers had in that game. We couldn't get nothing out of anyone else, and that really was the story of the night on our side. Um, and a lot of that is credited to the Miami Heat playing fantastic defense and bringing the urgency necessary, excuse me, to stay alive. They started the game out just quicker to the basketball, winning the 50-50 battle, hitting shots. Jimmy Butler came out firing. He had another magnificent performance on the stat sheet, as well as just in real life, in real time, seeing him play. He was just marvelous to watch. And he willed his team from the beginning of the game. He, Kendrick Nunn, Tyler Hero, I want to say, Duncan Robinson had a breakout game in this series, as I've been waiting for him to show what he can do. Bam is still a couple steps slow, but that's to be expected from the injury situation that he suffered in Game 1 that he's playing through. And, you just got to give the Miami Heat a lot of credit. They played phenomenal defense. They hit the big shots. They withstood the runs. They overcame the size difference. And I thought they won the game fair and square, to be completely honest with you. I didn't really have much of an issue with um, just conceding that they were the better team tonight. On the other end, the Lakers really had issues. LeBron James, first of all, was fantastic from behind the arc. It might have been the best three-point shooting game that he's had as a Laker. I think he hit about 6 of them. He was just phenomenal. We were playing from behind the entire first half, and it seemed to me that the only offense that we had for the greater part of the second quarter was his three-point shooting. And if not for those three-point shots, we probably would have been down 10-plus points early in the game. But we found ourselves close enough to keep it within nail-biting distance, basically, is what I'll say to that. It was always edge of your seat basketball being played from a score standpoint. You never really got any breathing room. They never got any breathing room from us. And, a lot of lead changes, things of that nature. AD had a lot of injury scares, I guess you could say. When I say a lot, I mean it had to be about 3 different ones. So needless to say, going into Game 6, his health is going to be the big question mark for the Lakers. He had a heel issue where his heel kind of tightened up on him. That took him to the ground. Weren't sure if he was going to be able to come back in the game. He came back in and then got a little bit of a tangle with someone. I forgot who it was that he banged into, but ended up having somewhat of a knee thing. So I don't know what his status is going to be for Game 6, but obviously he is very, very, very important. So needless to say, we'll be paying attention to that. A few guys struggled tonight. A few guys that you expect to play well, guys who haven't struggled throughout these playoffs, struggled tonight. I saw a bit of the jitters, first-time jitters, guys who just have a lot on the line, who just may have been a bit tight tonight going into this game. There's a lot of pressure on this game because they're putting on the Laker jerseys, the black Kobe jerseys, rather. And, guys just, it seemed like they were just tight to me. It felt like guys hadn't gotten any sleep. Guys were overthinking this thing. It wasn't basketball tonight. It was the pressure of being the Lakers and all the whatever comes with that. That's just my vibes. That's what I got from the guys. And, they were a step slow. Guys like Danny Green missing wide open shots. He's the story of the night because he had a shot that could have got us a lead down the stretch, and he just bricked it wide open, no defender anywhere near him. And, that's the story with Danny Green. He runs hot and cold. You really don't know what you're going to get from him. I mean, a few possessions before that, he hit a big three. So, I don't really know what to expect from the guy from moment to moment. And that does kind of frustrate me. But when he does hit shots, you're happy. When he doesn't, it's the worst thing in the world. It's just you live and die with a guy like that. KCP continued his hot streak. I mean, he's been one of the best players in the bubble, period, in terms of role players. I mean, you can't say enough about him. He's doing great stuff on both sides of the floor. He's hitting his shots. He's making the most out of fast break opportunities. He's initiating those situations with his defense. He's just playing the best basketball of his life. Happy he's on our side. I just wish he would have been able to have more opportunities to showcase himself a little more in this game, because we went with some guys that continued to struggle a little bit. AC did some good things on the defensive end, but on the offensive end, he ran hot and cold, and down the stretch, I think he really, really hurt us. With a drive that he had that they called an offensive foul on. We were already in scramble mode. The defense was basically clogging the paint, daring us to shoot a three. He got a wide open three, passed it up, and drove straight into the paint where everyone was, and they called an offensive foul, and it really harmed us. Prior to that, he had bricked a three-point shot that would have helped us as well, rhythm three. So, those are the type of plays you think about, but the reality is AC really does help you on the defensive end, and whatever he gives you on the offensive end is just simply a bonus. So if you focus on his offense and you don't pay any attention to his defense, you're not watching him at all, because he shines defensively. And so it is what it is. I just wish he could shoot a little better. That's the only thing I'd say about AC. If he could just give me a bit more consistency from behind the arc, he would be a player that I would be completely comfortable with. And I think he'll get better. I do. I think he'll get better shooting the ball. He's already shown competency from behind the arc. He bricks a lot. I wouldn't say he's a three-point shooter, but just when you want to start saying he can't shoot, he'll knock one or two down. So there's room for improvement, and I think he can become somebody that you can trust at that point, at some point. So, but tonight he hurt us a little bit, and he was not alone on that. Rajon Rondo, he didn't have it tonight. This was the first game I could say he honestly struggled, and I don't expect him to struggle going forward, which doesn't bode well for the Miami Heat. But he did struggle tonight. He got outworked. Kendrick Nunn was just quicker to the ball than him in a couple situations. He didn't really have a shot tonight. He was aggressive, but he wasn't able to really connect. I just think that he just really did. He didn't have it. Some nights you have it, some nights you don't. Playoff Rondo just wasn't playoff Rondo tonight, and it hurt us. And then you have Markieff Morris. Now, Markieff Morris is a player I've been saying has been shooting phenomenally and playing fantastic defense. He hasn't struggled up until this point. But tonight, did he struggle. He struggled mightily. He missed shots. He did poor. He just did a lot of things wrong, basically. To be honest with you, it was just a lot of wrong out there. He did get his tips here and there. He was trying to get rebounds, so I will say he got on the glass. He played hard. It wasn't like he wasn't throwing his weight around. But there were things that he was doing down there that just ultimately hurt the team. Bricking shots, defensive assignments, things of that nature, missing them. You just want to see more out of a player like that. Bad fouls, things like that. It just can't happen. You can't have a player playing as many minutes as he did today and do so many things wrong. So not to just point him out as specifically as somebody who just was the reason we lost, but he was definitely a great contributor to our woes out there. He really was. So if you don't have those guys who are used to playing well, who you are accustomed to playing well, then you're gonna struggle. And it doesn't matter if LeBron James go for 40 and a triple-double, which he did. I'm not sure it was a triple-double now I think about it. I'm not sure he did, but he definitely had 40 tonight and contributed in other categories as he always does. You need other guys to step up and just play as well as they always do. You don't have to be extraordinary, but don't go out there and stink it up in a game, in a championship clinching game. It's just not the time for that. And I felt like we had dead legs out there. And I'll say this. For whatever reason, the NBA scheduled this game, 2 games, 2 days rather, in between the 2 games as opposed to 1 day. So I guess what I'm trying to say is there was only 1 day in between the 2 games most of the time. But in this game, there was 2 days in between the 2 games. So I think that may have thrown players off. I think that may have made it so that guys may have gotten a little bit more time to think, time to let the pressure set in, time to not necessarily focus or whatever, And it just seemed like guys just came in with a different type of mindset. They didn't come in with the mindset that they were going to take a championship. They more so came in with the mindset that they were overwhelmed by the anticipation of the opportunities to celebrate. It was like an anticipation thing that they couldn't overcome. Like when you're so close to what you want, yet you're so far, and you're just sitting there like, I want to get it, but it's just so close. I don't know if I could touch it. Like, is it really here? Like, it's that kind of energy as opposed to, okay, let me knock this team over and take what's mine. Like, there was just a vibe about the team that just didn't seem like it was very certain about what it is that they were trying to do tonight. And, sometimes it's all about your approach, honestly. Sometimes it just really is. When your mindset is that of, I'm going to go take, or I'm going to kill, like Kobe's was, there's no way you're going to stop me. Like, you're going to have to really take me out. Like Jimmy Butler's mindset, for example. That's a killer. He came in with the intention of win, lose, or draw. They're going to get my best. And he went off. I think he had 5 steals, 35 points, a full triple-double with it. He definitely had a triple-double. And it was just a phenomenal performance. I mean, I don't think he missed a free throw. He might have been 11 for 11 or something like that. Like, just a virtuoso performance once again by a player whose legacy is growing by the second. And, there's not going to be too much to say about Game 5 without mentioning Jimmy Butler's name. Because he went toe-to-toe with the king. And he won. He outdueled the man. I mean, and don't get it twisted. That wasn't the story at all, but when you look back on who's did what in the finals, Game 5 is going to be Jimmy versus Bron. Jimmy won it. Straight up. That's what it's going to be. And LeBron needed more help from his guys, So, yeah, man, that's what I saw. But, look, this is something else that needs to be said about this game. I don't know if anybody's going to bring up, but should. The timeout situation was mismanaged very, very badly by the Laker coaching staff. They really mismanaged that timeout situation. Now, I'm not certain how they found themselves in these situations, meaning maybe those timeouts were called justifiably. Maybe it wasn't the coach that called these timeouts at all. Maybe it was players. I honestly wasn't paying that much attention to that until I looked up and realized that we had only 3 timeouts to go. 3 timeouts left with like 8 minutes to go in the second quarter. Anybody who plays NBA 2K understands that the game of managing your timeouts is almost as important as playing the game properly, because a lot of what goes on the floor is based on how healthy your players are, how much they're fatigued, and will determine how well they play. And so you know how to keep your timeouts, and you know how not to mismanage them. If you only have 3 timeouts and you're not even fully through the second quarter, you're going to have a very difficult time managing your basketball floor, especially down the stretch. And that is exactly what I saw down there. Down the stretch of the game with 5 minutes to go, the Lakers had a 1-point lead and were not able to call a timeout throughout any of the stretch all the way up into the 1 minute mark, which means they had 5 minutes of pure basketball without any timeout, just simply because they only had 1 timeout. A lot went wrong during that time. AD fell down, got into a bunch of different little collisions, found himself hobbled during that time. Markieff Morris started doing some of his stuff that wasn't working out for us. AC and his charge and his missed shots, all of that stuff happened without the Lakers calling a timeout because we had mismanaged them so poorly. Not to mention the challenge that we used on the charge that Duncan Robinson drew against LeBron James that ultimately was unsuccessful. It was, in fact, ruled a charge. Just mismanagement of timeouts. And that ultimately did tell the story, even though most people will not realize it. It was why the Lakers weren't able to make certain substitutions down the stretch, pull the guys in to give them a breather so that they're not stumbling over each other, be able to run a play so that they didn't find themselves charging into people, charging straight into the defense like AC did. These are things that could have been prevented had timeouts simply been called. And that's what we didn't have down there. And I could tell you, the game throughout the entire time, it just felt like the Lakers were off center. It was as if the Miami Heat had balance and we were lacking it. And they were able to use that against us throughout the whole game. No matter what the score looked like, you always felt like the Miami Heat were in a better position to score the basketball when they needed to and ultimately get a stop when they needed to. And that's why I said I feel very confident and comfortable saying that they were the better team tonight. But I don't expect to see certain players continue to play poorly. Rondo hasn't played poorly all playoffs long. I don't expect to see that again. Markieff Morris hasn't played this bad since he's been a Laker. I don't expect to see that again. And so on and so forth. KCP played pretty well. Kyle Kuzma continued to struggle and continued to look like the moment is simply too big for him. But he did hit some shots. He did put himself in position to get some layups, even off of some missed shots. He was able to cut on one play and let LeBron James get an assist on a nice layup from him. So he's able to do certain things that help himself, but ultimately it just seems like the pressure is a bit much for the role that he's in. And I don't think that's going to change going into Game 6. So, Dwight Howard, I would have liked to have seen more of him in the third quarter. We decided to go small. Don't really love that. I'd prefer to see what type of energy he can give you, because he seems to be a guy that can always provide energy for us and always provides rebounding. 2 things you can always get from him: rebounding and energy, if nothing else. And he's going to contest shots no matter what. So, this whole thing where he can't be on the floor because he's not able to stretch the floor and he's a liability, this and that, I just don't believe in that. Maybe it's because I'm used to watching an old school of basketball where a big man is in the paint and he can't shoot or a lick, but he's still dominant. I still believe in that basketball to a degree, but It's more so about me just wanting to see more rebounders on the floor at any given moment. I just believe in the rebounding edge, and you can't really have that when you go small ball. So, at any rate, we lost the game because there were a lot of things that went wrong for us and a lot of things that went right for the Heat. And credit the Heat for, putting their team in a position. Obviously, Spoelstra for putting his team in a position to be prepared for what we threw at them tonight. And give credit also to Kendrick Nunn for just simply playing phenomenally to start the game, giving the Miami Heat an extra push to go along with Jimmy and Duncan. He's been asked to come in there after Dragic went down, and he stepped in. He stepped in from a guy who had fallen all the way out of rotation from having a Rookie of the Year candidate type of season. For him to step in the NBA Finals in a series deficit situation and feel the load of your leading scorer, and leading and point guard for that matter, it's a testament to the character of the player. And you got to give Kendrick Nunn credit today because he really showed up in Game 5, and I don't think they win that game without his contributions. So I want to give credit to that kid. He's a real deal. So, yeah, man, that's what I got. Timeout situation. See, those are the type of things that had to contribute to Miami winning. That's why I still think that the Lakers are in a very, very good position right now, because a lot of stuff that happened in Game 5 evened up the score for them in ways that I don't think they'll be able to duplicate. You're not going to get a bad Rondo like that. You're not going to get a bad Morris like that ever again. I don't think you see that. You're not going to see the Lakers mismanage timeouts in that way. It's not going to happen. And so on and so forth. So the adjustments will have to be made. The Miami Heat have figured out some things defensively that they like. And if without AD playing at his best, we're going to need to continue to see this type of shooting from LeBron James. So kudos to him for being the GOAT level player that he is and showing up in the big game. Unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. So yeah, that's what we got. That is what I'm saying. I'm about to get some night. See, it's time to go to sleep. I'm going to get some shut-eye and kind of give some more thought on this game. Maybe watch some highlights, listen to some characters, talk about it, and maybe come back to you guys with another video before Game 6 on Sunday. Game 6 on Sunday. Wow. Lakers really did lose tonight. But sometimes you have to just tip your hat to the opponent. And that's exactly what this night ultimately comes down to. The Miami Heat really did outplay the Lakers, man. It wasn't like they looked like underdogs out there. They looked like these were two even teams, and the Heat just happened to win. Like, you got to give them credit. That's what I got, you guys. BDF 44.